Today, I'm here to talk to you about AWS SageMaker and give you a bit of an introduction to it, hopefully give you some ideas on how you can build AI on AWS. And just I'm going to highlight a few features which I would have really enjoyed to have known when I was doing my master's and undergrad of data science, because it's a really useful tool. So just a bit about me. I'm an associate solutions architect in the public sector. So what exactly is a solutions architect? So we call ourselves a trusted advisor for the customers. So we guide and advise on AWS, but also business value of implementing certain tools. So I get to both wear a technical hat, so knowing AWS tech, but also a business hat of understanding customers and their problems. So it's a really cool role where you get to sort of do a lot. You get a big breadth of experiences. So, and as said, I did the Tech U program, which is the AWS grad program. So I don't know if there's any grads or uni students here. That's a really great program. It's worldwide, so it's not just an ANZ. So that's grad. And so I did my Master of Data Science, really passionate about data. And hence why, as soon as I heard of the call for speakers for AI Camp, I was like, I'd love to do that. So as we said, we've got credits to give away, so get engaged, use the Twitter. You can tag me as well on Twitter, saying you're loving my talk or whatever. And you can also email me if you have any questions. So that's that. So a bit of an agenda. So going to give a bit of an introduction to the machine learning process, and then intro to SageMaker, why it was built, what gap it fills, and then a bit of a deep dive on feature engineering. And then I'm actually going to be doing a demo for you in the console of SageMaker, and then hopefully some time for questions and answers. So just a bit of background. So I think we all know that machine learning development can be costly and complex. There's a lot of barriers at each stage. So from collecting data, that can be time consuming and undifferentiated. Finding the right machine learning algorithm, you need to have a knowledge of the data and what you're wanting to model to find the right one. And then it takes time to train it, which can be costly. And then once you have your model, you then have to tune parameters and get that right. And then if you're going to put the model into production, there's additional barriers there. You have to monitor it, scale it, and manage it. So, and then to make things even more complicated, there's a lot of tools for developers to help with debugging and project management collaboration. But for machine learning development, it's often quite disconnected. So there's not so having a unified view of all those project management needs. So that was sort of the problem that AWS saw. So that's a bit of context. This is just a review of the machine learning process that we all go through when building machine learning models. So it all starts with a business problem, and then framing that problem into a way for a machine learning algorithm to understand and give us insights. So then you have to go get data, and then you have to prepare the data, clean the data, get it ready for the model. Then you have to visualize the data, understand it, if it suits the model. So you might have to do some feature engineering, parameter tuning and model training, evaluate the model. And then at this phase, you go back to that business problem. Are we meeting those goals? And if the answer is no, you may need to go get more data, augment the data, go back to it's an iterative process, isn't it? Or you might need to augment the features. You might want to use a different model to help you meet those business goals. If it does meet the business goals, well, then that's great. You then go into model deployment. And then once it's in deployment, you're getting more data. So then you retrain the model. And so it's a cycle. And there's these different phases in this cycle. And so just a bit of for the roles. So this discovery phase, the data analysts bring domain knowledge, understanding the business objectives to help formulate the right questions to help solve. And you need to have a good understanding of that problem to be able to design the solution. And then the data architect, the building this data platform of data collection and preparing and creating a workflow for that. So here are just some AWS services. If unfamiliar, all that we need to worry about really is the SageMaker, which we're going to be focusing on today. But some other cool services, Glue, so this is our extract, load, and transform service, so ETL service, which helps catalog your data. And then Athena, which is a SQL service, SQL query service for ad hoc queries on your data. So that's some fun services to play around with. But anyway, that's the data architecture phase. And then the data modeling phase. So this is what we're going to be focusing on today, more these purple squares. And so SageMaker helps you with this phase. And this is where, you start building your models. And also then you create model artifacts. Anyway, this is that. So we're looking at this today. How can we make this an easier process for data scientists and machine learning practitioners? And then just if interested in deployment things, these are some services here that help you with that, with getting your model into production and being used. So why am I here talking to you today? And what exactly does AWS offer for machine learning? So this is the machine learning stack at AWS, and we break it into 3 levels based on expertise and also what you need to do. So at each layer of the stack, so we have the top stack, and this is the AI services. And so this is to help developers easily add and integrate intelligence into the application without actually needing ML skills or building those models as it's been done for them. So there's pre-trained models to add to applications, such as transcribe of speech to text, Lex, which is the tool that powers Alexa. And so there's these tools available to integrate this into your applications. The middle layer, this is where we're focusing on today. So this is SageMaker. So this is for developers and data scientists, giving the ability to build, train, and deploy machine learning models at scale. And you see it covers the whole range of the data machine learning lifecycle. So from data collection and preparation to deploying and monitoring. And this simplifies the deployment process, and this is what we're looking at today. And the bottom layer, so this is the machine learning frameworks and infrastructure for expert practitioners. You can develop on the framework of your choice, so there's support for TensorFlow, PyTorch, MXNet, or developing it directly on compute instances. So this is just a bit of an overview of AWS ML stack, but we're just looking at SageMaker today. So what exactly is it and how does it fit into this bigger picture? So SageMaker is an end-to-end service for machine learning. It's a managed service. And when I say that, I mean AWS handles the underlying infrastructure that it runs on. So we all know with our Jupyter notebooks, we need computing to run on it. So AWS handles the compute, and you just tell it what compute you want, and you can go ahead and train your model, do your activity, but you don't need to worry about securing that compute power. And so we say that removes the undifferentiated heavy lifting. And so you can just spend more time and resources and energy on the business problem and your machine learning activities. So it provides an integrated workbench of tools brought into one place in SageMaker Studio. So you can use your Jupyter notebooks or a Jupyter lab environment, and also have experiments running, data preparation pipelines, pipeline automation and orchestration, all within the SageMaker Studio environment. So we can actually see it here. We've got a notebook, we've got an experiment, and we've got some outputs. So you can see it all in one place. And it doesn't just make notebooks. You can also run distributed training jobs. As we know, that's as data sets grow, a distributed learning is a really great way to do that. So you can do distributed training and data processing. And SageMaker handles the scaling, patching, and provides a highly available environment required. And so I'll be showing you a tool. I'll be taking you through Amazon SageMaker Studio. So just a few benefits of it, because I saw in the chat there are some people who are moving to AWS and might be needing to use SageMaker for work. So just some benefits of it. There's 20 plus tools that cover the entire life cycle of machine learning built into this interface. It boosts productivity as it's the first integrated development environment, or IDE, for machine learning. So bringing all these tools into one place. And it's cost effective as it integrates code, data preparation, debugging, bias, training, deployment, and monitoring in one place. And you don't have to build a custom environment. So, as I said, it covers all stages of the machine learning life cycle. So from preparing data, building models, training and tuning, and deploying and managing. But today we'll be focusing more on the preparing stage. And we can see there's lots of new features launched based on how we see people using it and what they need. New tools featured. So Sagemaker Studio, a bit more information about that. So this is the integrated IDE for machine learning workflow. It unifies tools for coding, experiments, data visualization, debugging in one place. And you can also track your environments and share your environments with colleagues or teammates for data science development. So how does it look? So this is just a screen grab of a Sagemaker Studio. We've got our familiar Jupyter notebooks. We've got an experiment results and some information about the training jobs and how they're going. So you can get side-by-side view of your notebook training, and you can iteratively build out your models. And you can also easily share it with your colleagues just with a link if they have access to your environment. So let me just check the chat if there's any questions. Any questions? No, all good. Okay. So we'll now go into a bit more about the feature engineering and data exploration tools available and why I think they're really useful for AI. So as we said, we'll be looking at prepare, and we're going to specifically be looking at data wrangler. So this is a very commonly quoted quoted statistic that 80% of data scientists' time is spent on data cleaning and gathering. And you need good data to be able to make good models. So it's a really important step as well, but it is time consuming. It's often considered tedious and resource intensive due to data being dirty and needing transformations done to be able to be used in machine learning, provided in the format that the models expect. And so by dirty data, I mean missing values, outliers, incorrect formats, etc. And we do need to transform the inputs to deliver efficient models. So there's multiple steps to data preparation. I'm sure we all know and have had a lot of fun cleaning data sets. And often we find standalone data preparation tools where you can perform data transformation, feature engineering, and visualization separate from where you can do model validation. But they are part of one. As we saw with that framework, it's an iterative process. You prepare the data, model, train the model, validate. Does it meet the requirements? No, go back to data. So it is an iterative process. It is it's part of the same workflow. So that is a challenge. So what exactly are the steps to data preparation and processing? So you have to collect the data and get data ready for machine learning. So that could be across various databases or data warehouses or just in random CSVs that you have. So you first need to get the data, and then you need to transform the data into a usable format. So you might need to write some code to do some transformations, or convert numbers to floating points, or one-hot encode your categorical variables, or convert timestamps to a uniform timestamp format. And then, so that's writing code for preparing data. And then you have to write, you transform your data, you need to visualize it to check that it meets it's what you expect, and that's more code to help detect outliers and prepare that data for models. And then you train it, that's all great, you got it working, but now you need to put it into production. And so you need to replicate what you made for a production environment. And so that, again, can be a tedious process of translating what you have into a more scalable language. So aggregating and preparing data into data prep workflows can take months, but with Data Wrangler, it's a lot simpler. So I think these are very familiar things to a data scientist, or our matplotlibs, checking the data, looking at a histogram of the data, doing some data transformations to data augmentation, or looking at correlation. So this is all part of the data that exploration phase. And again, have to write code for all these elements. I mentioned one-hot encoding. So for those unfamiliar, so if this column of VW, Acura, and Honda, instead of representing that with a string, you then create new columns for each of those values and indicate if it is that value with a 1. So one column becomes 3. And again, have to do some transformations to get that into the required form. And then reducing dimension reduction is also a really important tool we have to simplify your data. And then also having pre-trained models that you can just use to quickly get a pulse check is a common, this is all part of that exploration phase. And so this is just a little explain a slide about how you have input data. You do all these transformations to it of that one-hot encoding, adding in some new columns, calculating columns, and then you save the output to another location to then use for your model, and keeping track of having a bit of an audit trail of what has been done to the data. So that's so keeping track of the input, the transformations, and the output. So it's a whole process. So that's why I want to talk to you about Data Wrangler. It's a tool within Sagemaker Studio to help you to simplify this process. So you can quickly select and choose which data you want to use. So if you can have it from data you have stored on AWS already in a simple storage bucket, S3 bucket, or you can bring in files into the workstation, so CSV or Parquet or database tables. And then this data is stored securely, encrypted at rest in your environment, and then you have access to it to apply these data transforms and visualizations. So then you can transform it with some pre-configured transformations that are available. So you can transform a numeric column with a click, or you can bring in custom transforms using PySpark, SQL, or Pandas if you have some pre-existing transformations, or if you're more comfortable working that way. There's flexibility for you there. And then there's also inbuilt visualizations. So you can visualize the data, get some summary information, and quickly with just some clicks, and then we were talking about that, exporting it to production. So with Data Wrangler, you can export all these transforms you've done just with a click to either a notebook or code script. So you can replicate these transforms you've done into a production workflow. So how does it work? That's essentially the same slide, but you have the data. You can have it from AWS or brought into the console, cleanse it, run those transforms, visualize it. You can also run some quick models within the Sagemaker Data Wrangler interface. And then you might run it on your own more preferred models. And then you can then operationalize this transformation you've done into a pipeline or into just saving it as a notebook to run again or to share with somebody. So just a bit more, and I'll be showing a demo of this in the console, but just to give a bit of context for you. So this is how you can import. You select the connected sources, or you import the data like they've done here of some CSVs. And you can also do some quick queries for the data sources before you import large amounts. So you can query and inspect the data in place to understand it from Data Wrangler. And then in the transform phase, you can get a summary of the database, of the data that you have, the values that the columns are, and you can apply some pre-configured data transforms or provide custom transforms, and you preview what the transform would look like on your data and respond and apply it if it is as expected, or don't apply it if it is not. And there's also automatic data consistency checks to ensure data is consistent, such as having the same data stamps using your preferred format, which I know is often quite a bit of a pain at times to make sure all the timestamps and date stamps are the same. Mentioned also you can easily do some visualizations in the console. So there's pre-configured visualizations for histogram, scatter plots, box plots, or you can create and add in your own visualizations as well. So it's pretty, and you can just quickly see what it looks like, be like, yep, that looks good, or nope, that's not looking good. And it speeds up that, it's an iterative process. And then something which is quite cool is there is preview modeling capabilities. So this gives you a quick insight into the model accuracy, and it allows you to diagnose any problems, such as, I don't know, some errors maybe with the data formats, or some features are adding a lot to the model. So maybe you want to reconfigure that or drop some columns. These tools are really helpful when doing that. And there's some pre-built algorithms into SageMaker, some models to help with that. So this is, I think, a really cool feature. So for data preparation workflows, as we were sort of saying, there's the different stages, right? There's the importing the source, your data transforms, and then in this case, they've joined another data set with it, and then you can export this workflow to then just be integrated into your pipeline or to be recreated. And again, I think that's also it's really great to see it visually, how it's all coming together, and also how you can replicate it. So there's some other options as well to explore data. So you can just use a Jupyter notebook through SageMaker, or you can, if you use Spark, there's a Spark software development kit or SDK to help you with that, or you can do point and click in the console of running jobs modeling jobs, or you can run it on what's it called, an EC2 or Elastic Cloud Compute instance to run jobs. So those are a few other options, but we're looking at SageMaker Studio. So I'm now going to do a demo and also check if there's any questions. But so in this tutorial, we're going to assume we are a machine learning developer at a bank, and we've been asked to develop a machine learning model to predict whether a customer will enroll in a certificate of deposit. And so we've got some marketing data that contains information on customer demographics, responses to marketing events, and also some other external factors. Luckily, the data's been labeled for us, and the column, and we've got the target column that we're looking for if they have enrolled in the product that we're wanting to model. So now we're going to see how we can prepare the data, do some feature engineering and some visualizations all within SageMaker Studio. So let me just jump to the demo. So can people see that? I'll just assume it all good.
Yes, we can see that.
Okay, great. So this is the AWS console if you've not seen it before. So you can see the sort of things I've been working on, but we're going to go to SageMaker. And also there was an exciting announcement recently that now you can also run your Aws Studio in SageMaker, but I'm going to be using JupyterLab. I need to play around with that though. So this is SageMaker, and what we're interested in is SageMaker Studio. But you can see here that we've got you can use notebooks, or you can just run processing jobs in the console. And then what you do is go launch App Studio, and we'll get redirected. So I've set up the data already, so I'm just going to walk you through just how you can interact with those data engineering features. So I've got a little notebook here, and I've imported the data and some info, but we're just going to focus on I've got it here. Okay, sorry. So I've got it here. So I've imported the data from S3, the bucket. And so I've now got the data flow, and so we can have a look at it. So now let's look at the data types. So we see that we've got some ages, and it's a long. We've got some information about what jobs they have. We've got marital status, and we can see the data type it is. From here, we can also edit the type it is if you want to. And you can see, yeah, we've just got a few columns and a few, and this is a target variable Y. So we're looking if they have subscribed to a term deposit, yes or no. So this has about 40,000 rows. So maybe a quicker way to see it would be through a little table. So I'm going to create an analysis. So these are the pre-configured visualizations. So you can see the options here, but what I'm interested in is a table summary, just to give a quick overview of the table and the values it has. And you can see here the ages range from 98 to 17, but some of the values aren't really useful for a summary like this. So the ones that are job and marital status, that's probably not the best way to visualize this. So I'm going to make a histogram, and I'm going to look at marital status. So I'm going to choose what column I want to look at. I'm interested in the column, the target variable. Click preview, and you can see here the different values for divorced, married, single, unknown, and they've subscribed to a term deposit, yes or no. So this is just giving you some insights into the data. So I'll save that. I'll make a new one. Let's have a look at a histogram of a maybe just even of the Ys, just to get an understanding of this. Oh. Color by Y. So we do see that it is weighted more to nose, but that is, and that's maybe something we need to take into account when modeling. So I'll just save that again as, I don't know why, and preview, save. So this is the visualization functionality. We'll now go back to the data flow. So now I'll be showing some of the transforms you can do. So I mentioned you can write custom queries, so pandas, or with PySpark. So I'm going to use pandas. How you refer to the, oh no, Python pandas. You refer to the table as df. I've actually got a prepared feature here. Oh, thing here. So I'm wanting to replace some dashes with spaces. I'm going to add in a new indicator variable if p days is equal to 999. I'm also going to make a new indicator variable if they're a student, retired, or unemployed. And then just adding some unique IDs to the analysis so I can keep track of people. So we first have to press preview. And so it'll be added to the end. So you scroll to the end and you can see now that it's added, no previous contact, no not working, and just the ID that it created. So I'm happy with that. So I'll click add. And it's now been added to the transforms. You can also, there's also pre-configured transforms. So you can featureize the information, you can format strings, how to handle missing values. So if you want to replace or drop columns with missing values, how to handle outliers. If you want to drop columns, there's lots of options here for you. So what I want to do is, I was noticing marital status, that was a categorical variable. So I'm going to do a one hot encode on marital, and I want it to be a column. So let's preview this. And again, we've got to scroll to the end. And you can see here, it's now added one hot encoded for the different values. So of married, single, divorced, and unknown. So I'm like, okay, that looks good, and we'll add that as well. So that is, you can also do one hot encoding with your pandas scripts as well. So that, okay, that looks, maybe we'll drop some columns. Maybe some of these columns are not super useful. So manage columns, I want to drop, but you can see that there's a few options here. And let's drop, let's just drop, we don't really care about the marketing events, so we'll drop that, and then we'll apply that. So now we've got a few transforms available. So this will now be reflected in our data flow. So you can see here it says steps 3, and you can expand it to see what has been applied. And so you can see that. And so now I want to export this. So this will then be, go to the export tab, choose up to where you want to export to. Okay, so grabbed all of them and then export. And so as we said, there's a few ways to export it. So I want to make a processing job, so I'm going to export it to S3. And this is going to output a notebook that you run and outputs it to a specified S3 bucket with the transformations of the model. So you can see how this is then replicatable and a useful tool for your data transform space. So that was all I wanted to show you for the demo. If there's any questions, I'll check the chat. Any questions in the chat? Or we'll wait for the end. We can jump back to the presentation. So hopefully you saw that it was quite easy to explore and play around with the data in Sagemaker Studio and how it could fit into pipelines. So if you are interested in getting started, here are just a few links. I was also working from a SageMaker immersion day for that workshop and the demo. So there's a few more steps to it to give you some more ideas on how to use SageMaker. So again, that link is there if you're interested. I can also chuck them in the chat if you want to get building. And then also just a side note, if you are interested in AWS and getting certified, if you're based in Australia and New Zealand, there are 50% off on discounted exam vouchers for you. You just have to complete a course and submit an application to get the discount code. So again, I can chuck that in the chat if you're interested in getting AWS certified. And I just want to say happy building. I really hope you enjoyed that, got the brain working and gave you some ideas of how you can build on AWS and what you can do with SageMaker Studio. So I've got a survey, just a 2-question survey to let me know how I went. It'd be great if you can all fill that out. And yeah, I can answer any questions you have now.
Great. Thank you for sharing. It's a really good demo on the feature engineering and also showing us the great visualization features from SageMaker Studio. So maybe I can share my screen. So, and we have some questions from the audience. The first question would be, how do I use S3 to store input and out data for model training and tuning?
Yep, yeah, I think that's referring to that input and output slide I had. So you store it in a so in a bucket. It can all be in the same bucket, but you can have subfolders. So you could have an input folder where the SageMaker Studio grabs it and you do the transformations on, and then you save it back out to the output subfolder. Oh, so do I have to use? No. So nope, you don't need to use S3. So as I said, you can also do it just in the console. But S3 is a really great service. But yeah, so don't have to, but it is great.
Good. Okay. So we have audience who's requesting for the presentation or the slides. Would that be available?
Yep, I can provide them to AI Camp, and that'd be easier for you to distribute to the.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, we can provide the slides, and also I'll chuck the immersion day lab link because that's also really useful. Some good info there.
Great. Okay. The other one we have is, what about model deployment?
Yep. So model deployment, there are a few ways to do that. Let me just grab a few of the services. So you can integrate it with Lambda, AWS Lambda, if you've heard of that service, serverless compute, integrated into a code. I'm trying to not just use AWS. There's ways, Sunhill. I can get some more info to you about how you go to the next phase, or maybe I'll come back and give another presentation about that deployment. Yeah, it could be now you've got a model, how do you deploy it? I could come back and give some more information there, because I don't think, yeah, I'll do it justice in with this answer.
Maybe another session.
Yeah, maybe another session if there's an appetite for it.
Yeah. Okay. The next one, I think people are asking if there's any more presentation for in the following days. AI Camp is definitely partnering with AWS to get presenters for any other AWS features or products, and also machine learning in general. But I think Emma is also doing another one with us next month as well.
Yep.
Is it?
Yep, I think there's, yep, I think I will be. I'll be back.
Yeah.
And yeah, let us know what you would like to
welcome.
see, like e.g. model deployments. Let AI Camp know, let us know, and can put things together.
Another technical question.
Oh.
This one is for you.
Okay. So how many algorithms does Autopilot try to automatically build for us? So SageMaker Autopilot. I don't know exactly, but I'm just going to jump to the documentation. So there are options such as, I'll just chuck this in the chat for people to know. So Autopilot's another tool in SageMaker and SageMaker Studio. So it's a tool which automatically builds and trains models for your data, but you have full visibility into it. So it's to sort of help with that exploration phase and try things out. Let's see what models they have. These are really great questions, people. I'm happy it's gotten people engaged. Let's see, I'm not. So it has binary, so this is just, it has binary classification, multi-class classification and regression options. And then there's also gradient boosting decision trees, deep neural networks and logistic regression. And it trains it based on like what type of machine learning you're wanting to do. So if it's just, and what model would suit it. And then I think when it says hundreds of models, that's around also the hyperparameters for that model, for the data. So yeah, so there's options there, but that also reminds me I should have a look at Autopilot and see how it goes.
Yep, thank you. We have two more. So this one is about GPU.
Yep, so that's also a great question about, so for free tier for people, so that is, you can get started on AWS for free. And with SageMaker, there's a free tier. Let me just grab the information about that. So with free tier, so on AWS, you pay for what you use, and on free tier, so you're charged per the hour essentially. So with free tier, you get 250 hours of instances or notebooks of a certain size. So GPU usage quota, is that for a specific service, MD?
Yeah, not sure.
Not sure. So e.g. if you're on free tier, stop your notebook from running when you're not using it, because then you accumulate costs. So remember to shut it down so that you can get the most out of your free tier, because you're billed per hour. I can't see anything about GPU usage on the Sagemaker Studio, but yeah, I can follow up with you, MD, if you want. yeah, I just see a free tier about hours on your notebooks. And you get free storage and things and free training. Yeah, sorry about that.
It's fine.
How can you check?
Yeah, there's also how can you check that?
How can you check? So you can have insight into your usage in the AWS console. So in Billing and Cost Explorer, you can check your usage and what services are using them. What services are adding to your usage.
Yep. There's also a next one. This is quite long.
Yeah, so great question. So yeah, so it's transform. So in the demo I showed you, we did a few transforms in the GUI, and then it translates that back into Python. So e.g. how we had the drop columns, drop one hot encoding, that's then transformed into Python code. So you can reuse it, use it for in pipelines, for example. So and the order is also reflected in that. So the order that you perform the transformations. So yeah, so it reflects what you do into code, and also the custom ones as well. That's why there's those 3 options. So yes, I think I would answer the yes to that. So does it reflect your techniques? Yes.
Okay. I guess we don't have any questions for now. So if anyone has any more questions, yeah, we can probably take one or more. And actually, someone in the chat just sent me a diagram about the deployment.
Ooh.
Maybe Emma, do you want to? I can share this one to the audience as well. But just let people to know if this is. How do I share? Okay. So I got this from the audience. Maybe it would be interesting to discuss a bit about the deployment phase. What about what's your thought on this one, Emma?
Yep, no, that's really cool. So yeah, sort of as I was saying, you've got, and also as someone else was saying, you've got this input. Just based on what it says. So API gateway, that's APIs, it's triggered by events, which then feeds into Lambda, which is a serverless compute. So it just operates a little snippet of code for you, and it just runs for however long it takes to operate. So then the Lambda, I don't know exactly what this one would be doing, but maybe it's being triggered by uploading of a file or something. And then it goes to a SageMaker endpoint. So that would be your model endpoint that you've deployed. I guess the S3 is maybe where the endpoint, the model resources are stored, or it's exporting something to that. And then when it's done with the model, it's probably triggered then by it triggers a Lambda. So Lambda's is like an event based, it's event driven. So triggered by uploads or completions of things. So I guess once the model's done, Lambda's triggered to then tell API gateway, here's the output. That's from what, I assume that model the diagram is showing. If that
Yeah,
helps.
thank you. Yeah, I think that's a good explanation.
Yeah, and then it gives some output to, yeah, no, that's great. Thanks, whoever sent that through.
So I guess we can do the lucky draw right now.
Yes.
But just have a go with the pool. I guess people still need some more time to enter the pool for the drawing.
Yixuan, maybe you want to present your slides on that lucky draw, that page.
sure. I'll do that.
Yeah, so we've got AWS Credits, so you can start building on AWS. And also just you can also set billing alarms. So if you you went with the credits, but you don't want to spend more than the credits, you can set an alarm to alert you that you've used X amount of the money, so you don't go over budget. Just a little tip for you.
Yeah, that's really cool. Having a credit, but there's
Yeah.
also another I guess another question, or maybe not a question. There's a comment or a sentence in the chat box.
Yeah. So is this you can do natural language processing with in SageMaker, if that's sort of what it's referring to. So if it's that you've got a few different types of data, you can, like e.g., you could do some of the, I was meant to mention this, you can do, like, I'll get the right name from it, but yeah, there's options for machine NLP in SageMaker, so such as sequence to sequence and neural topic modeling. So yep, there's options there if you have sentences that you need to analyze. And with numbers,